See, I believe that that 5%er grows up knowing that they're unique. They know that they're outside that box. In fact, they're not even born with the box. Their philosophy, their thought process is, I'm unique and I can make decisions on my own. I'm willing to take risk, often unnecessary risk. But to the 5%er, they're absolutely necessary. It's kind of like sending a kid that loves candy into a candy store and telling him not to eat the candy. That's impossible to a 5%er who's looking around them and saying, wait a minute, the world wants to go right. Why isn't anybody going left? And someone says, well, because you just don't go left. To a 5%er, that's like putting a kid in a candy store that loves candy. I mean, the reality is that that 5%er believes that that is their destiny, is to wake up each and every day and defy the odds, go against the grain. Now, I'm not saying put themselves at unnecessary risk, but see, the thing is about a 5%er, they believe that when they take that risk, that they'll survive it. In fact, they believe that that's where their wisdom comes from. That is where wisdom comes from, in fact, trial and error. See, I also believe that the average 5%er grows up to live a life often considered to be 3, 4, 5, even 10 times the amount of life that the average person may grow up because they take those unnecessary risks. I mean, isn't that what life's really all about? Is experiencing things, experiencing the unknown, finding out and experiencing the emotions and the things that others typically don't dare to do. See, if it wasn't for the 5%er, America never would have been founded. I mean, just face it. You got to know that Christopher Columbus was a 5%er. I mean, who leaves a perfectly good country, gets on a boat, travels for months across sea through all kinds of storms to come find a land that there's really not much there, really and truly. When it's all said and done, it's a very uncomfortable place to go. But why did he do that? Well, because it was his destiny. See, when everybody went right, he had to go left. See, we as 5%ers, we believe that this country was founded on 5%ers. Still to this day, 40% of the millionaires that exist today in the United States are first-generation immigrants. Think about that. That's huge. That supports what we're saying. It's the 5%ers from all over the world that wake up one day and say, hey, I know there's something in the pit of my stomach that makes me unique, that makes me want to go figure out what's outside that box. See, the box is what the world wants to put us into. And that's okay. A lot of people are comfortable with the box. They like the box. But the 5%er doesn't. The 5%er, they may find comfort in it very briefly. See, it's the number one reason why 5%ers are known for a high divorce rate. They're also known for a high bankruptcy rate. Because let's face it, if our task is to go out and experience the world and try it out, we know that there's going to be failures. But it's the failures that makes us stronger. It's the failures that makes us wiser. That's the reason why we write the books, the Legacy series. The Legacy 5 series is written by 5%ers so that 5%ers can actually learn about themselves. See, we're a very unique breed of people, as everyone is. Everyone's unique. It's just that the 5%er happens to find their uniqueness in doing the impossible, doing the thing that everybody else is scared to do. In fact, when you define that thing, then that's when the 5%er knows what their destiny is in that moment, is to go do what everybody else is scared to go do. And there's been tons of people, from Steve Jobs to Elon Musk, tons and tons of people that has lived that life of doing what everybody else was scared to do. Now, it's not really about money. It's about living the life that you're supposed to live. It's living out your destiny, your God-given talents. Everybody has theirs. But for 5%ers, we know what ours is to take those unnecessary risks so that we can sometimes do the necessary, so that we can pioneer for the rest of the world and learn new lands. See, we believe that the Constitution of the United States was signed by all 5%ers. Yes, they went home and they prayed on it, but they knew that this was the right thing to do to build a free and united country that the world could go to, that anybody that was born to be that 5%er could come to this property on this continent and become the person they were supposed to be. I don't know about you, but that's pretty amazing. We need to support that. We need to lift it up. So Focus on the 5 is about creating a platform for 5%ers to give them that place that soft place to land, if you will. It's not to create a box. In fact, quite the opposite. We don't believe there is a box for 5%ers. Never was one. They were born without the box. And they spend their entire life being told that it's not good to be a 5%er, that you need to stop being the 5%er that you were born to be. See, the problem is most people don't know what a 5%er is. And when they have a child like that, they don't know how to raise them because, well, frankly, they're a 50%er. They're conservative minded. And when you're conservative minded, well, let's think of it this way. If your family's born short and you have a really tall kid, well, how do you raise that tall kid to think short? You don't. You raise the tall kid to be tall, even if your family is short. It's not a unique concept or a unique idea. Here's the problem. The average 5%er is not easy to spot. See, it's not a color of skin. It's not a height. It's not something that's real visual. Although there is traits about 5%ers that stand out. Give an example. Today, if I walk in a room and I see somebody using a flip phone, you can be pretty sure that's not a 5%er. See, 5%ers love shiny objects. They love to be cutting edge. And not all of them can afford to be, but they want to be. And as soon as they can afford to, they will be. Give an example, Tesla. Tesla, you can be assured the first 18 months of Tesla, nobody but a 5%er bought that vehicle. Probably still, at this time, that's still the case. Because all early adopters are 5%ers. Early adopters are those that says, hey, I realize that nobody's bought this yet. I realize that nobody's actually stepped up the plate and purchased one yet. But because nobody has, that's the reason that I want it. Because I'm a 5%er. And you know what's funny about it? They're the last ones to ask what the price is. In fact, in many cases, they're at the cash register paying for it before it really dawns on them, oh, how much is that? Because you see, it's not about the price. It's about the experience. It's about being the first. It's about being known that way. That's how they want to be seen. See, I realize that at least 90% of the world doesn't really want to be seen that way. They want to be the ones that, well, they want to know it's been a proven thing before they purchase it. They're conservative minded and they're very proud of it. And there's not a thing wrong with that. In fact, it's a great thing. 5%ers wouldn't feel as unique as they're supposed to feel if it wasn't for the other 90%. So I just want to basically, people ask me, how does it affect running my business with the 5%er mentality? Well, first you have to understand and buy into the idea that almost all new ideas and new products are purchased by 5%ers first. The marketing world calls them early adopters. But the reality is, it's entrepreneurs, it's risk takers, it's founders, it's visionaries, it's disruptors. It's people that go left when everybody goes right. It's their nature and it's their desire. See, 5%ers is all about choices. It's not about income. It's about how we make choices in life. That's what life's all about, isn't it? It's how we make choices and why we make the choices that we do. Certainly marketing is the case. I know that about 75% of the disposable income is spent by women and decided by women. And women make emotional choices more than logical choices, and they're very proud of it. Well, so there's a lot of mixture there that we have to consider and think about. What makes a 5%er female make the decisions she does, and what makes a 5%er male make the decisions that he does? Well, the male believes he's supposed to go conquer, so he's like 5%er on steroids. But the 5%er female, she does think things through because she has children to raise. She has instinctive things about her but she's still a 5%er. Once the kids are raised, watch out. The 5%er in her will come out. So it's really fascinating to understand the buying habits of 5%ers. But if you're in business, here's the thing to think about when you're in business. Let's say that the average business, for instance, has 1,000 repeat customers a year. What's interesting is on the average business, of the 1,000 repeat customers a year, about 6 or 7 of them make up almost 60 to 65% of their total gross earnings. Now think about what I just said. Let's say that the average business takes maybe 20 people to run it that does a high volume, pretty good size high volume, say a nice restaurant. And let's say that 6 6 out of the 1,000 that come there are actually corporations and businesses that hire them on a regular basis or sends their employees there on a regular basis. But they're the biggest influencers of the growth of that business or product or service. So the question is, isn't it really about how you add one more of the 6 and not one more of the 994? Because the 994 customers takes most of your employees to service them. So here's the thing about a 5%er. Would they walk into your place of business? They won't stand in line behind a 95%er to buy a pack of gum. You know what they'll do? They'll get back in their car quietly, leave the store, get in their car and drive 3-4 blocks down the street, go in and pay 3 times the price for a pack of gum at a place that recognizes that they're a 5%er. So drawing a line in the sand with your business to represent the 5%er more exclusively could have a great benefit. And the reason that it could have a great benefit is really simple. If the 5%er is the one that is the early adopter, they're the ones that first buy something, then for many of you in your businesses, that's crucial. But here's the reality. A major portion of all 5%ers, in fact, I would even go so far as to say the average 5%er has 200 or 300 people that follow them, that listen to everything that they do, because see, they're the guinea pig for that 200 or 300 people. They're that person that is in their lives that they know will think outside the box, they'll take the risk, they'll be the first to try out something new. And if they like it and they think it's really cool, well then eventually the 15%er will buy it, and then the 30%er, and then the 50%er. So what's the difference between a 5, a 15, a 30, and a 50? Well, see, I believe that all people in their DNA are either born what we call a 5%er or a 50%er. 50%er being someone, a small child that says, hey, I'm not taking any unnecessary risk. I know better. My mom and dad tells me not to do that. Then there's the 5%er who says, well, I can't help it. I got to be who I am. I got to take those chances. I got to take those risks. So here's what happens. The 5%er odds are going to get raised by parents who are 50%ers. I mean, statistically, if 80% of the world is born a 50%er and 20% is born a 5%er, then the odds are certainly increased dramatically that you're going to get raised to become what's called a 15%er. And see, there's a dividing line between the 15 and the 30%er. It's like the dividing line of, let's say the average man's height in the United States is 5'9½". Well, if the average is 5'9½", that's the dividing line, as an example. So if you're considered 5'10", what are you considered? Tall. If you're born 5'9", you're raised to become 5'9", then you're considered short. So who really cares? You know what really matters is that you embrace who you are. That's really what matters. But see, what's unique about the 5%er, it doesn't really matter whether you're short or tall. It's not based on your height. It's not based on your race, your color, your creed, or what part of the United States you're born in. It doesn't matter what parents you have. It's the nature of someone who's born a 5%er. They have to become who they are. So some children stay true to who they are and stay a 5%er because their parents are also 5%ers, or a major influence in their life basically said, hey, you're born a 5%er and you should be a 5%er. They may not use those exact words, but you get my point. Or odds are they're going to be raised to think like a conservative-minded person. The 50%er that their parents are, or their aunt or their uncle or their grandparents, or that influencer in their life that says, hey, this is the best way to be, and you'll grow up to be a much better person if you'll grow up to think this way and be this way. I'm not here to argue that. In fact, quite the opposite. I think it's a good idea to have balance. I would strongly suggest that the most balanced individuals are those that are 15%ers or 30%ers, because they have the exposure of both sides of the fence, both sides of the line, if you will. See, the reality is that we're all in the